boys and girls. Welcome to SOAR class. I'm Ms. Fukmanic, and if you remember, if you were here last year, SOAR stands for the Science of Oceaneering, Aerospace, and Robotics. And today we are going to start learning about airplanes and airspace. So, first of all, do you know who built and flew the first successful plane? It was the Wright brothers, and this is their plane right here. It's a biplane because it has a wing on the top and the bottom. They flew very close by in Kitty Hawk, which is in the Outer Banks. So if you've ever been to the beach in Nags Head area, that's where they flew. And if you go to the dunes, the big sand mountains, there is a Wright Brothers Museum there. Check it out sometime. Today, we are going to be learning about another important pilot, and her name is Bessie Coleman. So before we start reading Fly High, the story of Bessie Coleman, let's talk about what a pilot needs to wear. So first of all, a pilot needs to cover their head, and so they wear a helmet. Now this helmet isn't going to help me if I fall out of a plane. It's not like a football helmet. There's no protection there, but it is going to keep my ears warm, my head warm, and it's going to protect my ears from the loud noises from the plane engine. I also need to wear my goggles because stuff's going to be flying at me, or it could be. So here I've got my eye protection, my goggles. I'm going to pop it up here so I can see you better. I've got a bomber jacket, which is going to keep me warm because if I'm flying quickly, it could get really cold. Zip that up. And finally, I have a scarf. So some pilots were big into fashion, like Amelia Earhart. She loved fashion, but it also served another purpose besides keeping your neck warm. If I'm flying through the air and I can't see because something hits my goggles, I can use it to clean my lenses. So it's like a 2-for-1 right there. All right, so now I feel like a pilot. Let's start reading about Bessie Coleman. This is Fly High, the story of Bessie Coleman, and it's by Lewis Borden and Mary Kay Kroger. We're gonna read a little bit, just the beginning of this today. We'll continue it tomorrow, and then on Thursday, we will finish the story. So this is the early years. 100 years ago in Waxahachie, Texas, Bessie Coleman walked 4 miles to her one-room schoolhouse and 4 miles home. Bessie loved numbers, and learning numbers was worth walking those long, dusty miles, past tenant farms and cotton fields and small, shabby houses. Bessie Coleman was a reader, too. Twice a year, a library wagon stopped in front of her small home on Palmer Road. And twice a year, Bessie's mother, Susan Coleman, used her ironing money to rent books for Bessie to read. Books about people whose skin was the color of Bessie's. People like Harriet Tubman and Booker T. Washington. They were somebody, all right. Susan Coleman had been just 10 years old when the Civil War ended. The daughter of Georgia's slaves, she couldn't read or write, but she had a big heart and spoke with kind words. Susan knew how to plant seeds, pick cotton, and teach her children to love God. Bessie's father, George, who was part Indian, couldn't read or write either. The Colemans had 13 children, and Bessie was the 10th child born into this big family. 4 of the Coleman children died at early ages. Even so, Susan kept her strong faith in the Lord. When Bessie was 9 years old, her father left his family behind and headed for Oklahoma. Maybe tribal lands and customs would bring him a better life than a Texas cotton town. Now, times in Waxahachie were even harder. For Susan Coleman and the youngest children still at home. But Susan had her Bible, and every night Bessie read aloud to her mother and her 3 little sisters, slowly and then faster as she got better with the Lord's words. School was where Bessie wanted to be. Not dragging a picker sack through the cotton fields of Texas, but in August and September, when the green cotton bolls split open, fluffy white, Bessie couldn't go to school. It was time to pick cotton. Some years her school doors were shut until November or December. Cotton picking mattered more to the town than numbers of books. Every hand was needed. And for poor folks like the Colemans, heavy sacks of cotton meant food on the supper table. Many times at the end of those long days, Bessie stood next to the head foreman, checking his numbers. She wanted to make sure that the cotton her family had picked was weighed fair and square. Susan Coleman had a proud smile when she saw her Bessie write down those numbers and figure out the sums. Someday, that girl would be somebody. From the start, Bessie Coleman had always been a walker and a counter. Now, as she grew older, Bessie was a dreamer. On Saturdays, Bessie walked 5 miles across the streets of Waxahachie, taking clean shirts to the big houses of folks who had money. And Bessie walked 5 miles home to her sisters and her mom with another sack of laundry to wash and press. Maybe if she saved enough ironing money, she could get a better education, beyond the skimpy 8 grades in that one-room schoolhouse. With more schooling, she could be somebody. Several years later, at the age of 18, Bessie took some catch-up classes at a university in Oklahoma. The students there in Langston had dark skin too. Bessie was placed in the 6th grade at 18 years old. Means she missed a lot of school. But the classes cost too much money for a country girl. After only one term, Bessie had to come home to the 3-room house on Palmer Road. Okay, we're gonna pause there for today, and tomorrow we're gonna find out what happened in her life to inspire her to want to fly planes, okay? So that is the beginning of Fly High, the story of Bessie Coleman. Now, before we move on, we're gonna talk about some parts of an airplane, okay? So here I have my airplane. And there are several parts that we're going to be learning about. First of all, the body of the airplane is called a fuselage. If you remember from last year, that's the same as the body of a rocket. So the fuselage is the body. Up here, I think you all know what that is. That is called a wing. Back here, if you think of a dog or a cat, what's in the back of them? A tail. This is the airplane's tail. And this is the propeller. And not all planes have a propeller, but some do. See that? And finally, the pilot is going to sit in the seat back here, and this is called the cockpit. All right, so I'm going to teach you how to draw a pretty simple airplane, and then we're going to be labeling the different parts of it. All right, so you're going to need paper and a marker or a pencil, and let's see if we can zoom in here a little bit. All right, so first of all, if you have a piece of paper and you can turn it sideways, not up and down, but long ways, landscape, you're going to draw a line in the middle. And see how I didn't go from one end all the way to the other? It's just kind of a line in the middle of the paper. That's how we're going to start, and I'll draw mine up here. All right, next, I want you to take, from one end, I want you to make a line down. Okay, now we're gonna kind of complete the triangle with a curved line. I think this makes it look like a boat, half a boat. All right, next, on this end, let's just make a straight line down. And now we're gonna make 2 lines that go out, and we're going to connect them. And then we're gonna make 2 more lines kind of close together and connect them. All right, for the next part, if you have the letter X where it crosses, we want our X to cross on this rectangle. So I'm gonna start up top and make 1 line and 2 lines. See how it crosses right here? Okay. The next part is a frown and a smile. So at the top, I'm going to connect my 2 lines of my X with a frown. And on the bottom, I'm going to connect my 2 lines with a smile. Can you guess what that is? It's our propeller. All right, next, we're going to make some landing gear. So I'll start with 2 diagonal lines. And we know that a tire or a wheel is round, so it can roll. So let's make a circle. And to make it a little more wheel-like, I'm going to put another circle inside. All right. I'm going to come up here and draw a straight line and connect it with kind of a curved line. And I'm going to go up higher and do the exact same thing. Straight line, curved line. Okay, we're going to make 4 vertical lines which go up and down. So I'm going to make 2 over here, 1, 2, and 2 over here, 3, 4. All right, now let's scooch to the back of the plane, and I'm going to make an upside down U. And I'm going to make a smaller version of this. So underneath, a little line, and whoop, connect it with a curved line. All right, now we need a place for our pilot to sit. So we need to build a cockpit. So between my wing and my tail, I'm going to make 2 little vertical lines down and connect them. So I have a rectangle. Okay, I'm going to add my pilot. So if I come up, I'm going to make a circle for a head and 2 curved lines for the body. And then I can decorate my pilot however I want. I'd like to give him some cool goggles, eyeballs, my happy pilot, and give him a helmet. Maybe a scarf in case those goggles get messy. Some arms. All right, good job. I would love to see your airplanes. If you want to send me a picture. Now let's label our picture. So first of all, we have our cockpit. So the cockpit is where my pilot sits. So I'm just going to write it up here. Cockpit, and maybe draw an arrow. All right, next I have my propeller. The propeller is at the front of this plane and it spins. Propeller. Okay, next is the tail. And back here we have our tail and we have our tail fin. So this whole area back here is going to be the tail. And our wing, we actually have 2 wings. Now they look kind of small here. These are our wings. But we made a biplane. We turned it sideways like this. So on my plane, all you see is that little teardrop shape. So that's the same as, here we go, right here. So there'd be 1 and 2. So there'd be another one on top of it or below it. Okay. And finally, we have our body, the fuselage. All right. Now, if you want to name your plane, go for it. How about, I'm going to call mine Big Red, since we're the Cardinals. All right, so you just created a plane. Awesome. Pretty simple. All right, that is all I have for you today. Tomorrow, if you can come back to class, please bring some paper. If you have a few sheets of paper or different papers, do that. We're going to be making some airplanes. And you also need to bring some tape. Now, if you have masking tape or scotch tape, whatever kind of tape you have will be fine. And if you don't have tape, don't worry about it. Paper will do, okay? So I can't wait to see you next time. All right, take care. Bye, pilots.